Thank you. Paul,
he's not here.
It's okay. There's 2 county meetings going on this morning, so if it's okay, I'm Wells. We get
Sure.
with PRC. So, just like Mr. Sprague, thank you, commissioners. This is a lot of hard work, and I want to express also a thank you to the planning and zoning. Last several months have been a lot on everyone, and on behalf of PRC, we want to thank you. The extra diligence, the extra consideration to really work together has been meaningful for us. I think where we've stepped up is to actually get engaged at the township level, which that was a really helpful thing for us. So we have met with both Bremen and Valhalla, had really good discussions. I think out of the last what's being recommended, both townships seem to be supportive, and so we are in a position to support the ordinance. We did offer up, I know we submitted a few minor changes, just some clarification, I think, from what happened at the planning and zoning, and just maybe a way to make it a little bit easier for everyone to understand how to identify a primary residence versus a non-primary residence. So we respectfully offer some edits for your consideration today. It's been hard, but we're very pleased with the work. We're continuing to engage with all property owners. Our layout has been revised. There's been a lot of very good improvements. We are losing a few turbines in Wells County, but I think it's a good concession, and that's how this process should work. And so our company is in support of the ordinance. This has been a lot on everyone, and we're kind of want to get the groundwork. We want to make sure the property owners are comfortable, and there'll be a whole another step where we come back and actually apply for the permit, and so we'll have that layout available, and that will come back to the county. And we're looking forward to that because we think you'll be pleased with the work that at the county level, within our company, and then folks that have really stepped up in the community to try to make this work. So we sincerely appreciate that. And respectfully provided a few updates just to make it a little bit easier, not just for our project, for any future project, both for property owners and the companies that are maybe trying to do business in Wells County. So just want to thank you very much for that and appreciate your consideration.
thank you. Some of those revisions or edits, Stan, do you want to speak for the zoning board?
A definition of, one would have been definition of a primary residence. It's written there as such that whatever's on your driver's license, I felt, and a number of people have felt that you can change your driver's license in a couple hours no matter where you live. I would like it changed, or some people would like it changed.
Okay, so I received a list of proposed changes from PRC, and so a number of them are just changing like participating dwelling to participating residence. So the primary residence had been listed as, primary residence means the address listed on the individual's driver's license or state ID, and it would change under their recommendation to residential structure occupied at least 9 of the past 12 months and in existence as of the date that the application is submitted. Another recommended change from PRC was minimum ground clearance on 12.1.3.4. The blade tip, right now it says the blade tip of any wind turbine shall at its lowest point have a ground clearance of not less than 75 feet. They're proposing a 50-foot but the comment says recommend deleting this requirement as there is no basis for it. Utility minimum clearances are 32.5 feet. If you need to assert a number, perhaps 50 feet is workable and will not force wind turbines to be taller than they need to be. So there's that change proposed anyway. let's see.
Well, just to back up now, we all understand that, right? The two things?
Well, there's another one.
Huh? Well, if you do one at a time, just so we don't lose
Okay.
people
Yeah.
there. No, the residents, they gotta live there 9 months out of the year.
Yeah.
And it's gotta be documented, because any wind farm, and let's not apply to just this particular
You're right,
case,
right.
it's down the road.
down the years to come.
They gotta know and have a list of that group of people at a certain date. That's basically what that's saying. We're all good with that?
Okay, now, with that said, okay, so I'm a senior citizen, I'm living out there and I live there all the time, okay? Or I get moved to the nursing home and pretty soon I'm not in that 9-month deal. And it takes a year before this place changes hands and somebody new wants to buy it. So how do you change it then from, you know, how do you change the wording at that point? Because if it's a viable, saleable thing, is that gonna affect the market value because it was not considered primary or whatever? Like, you understand what I'm going is, there's a time when this thing's gonna get screwy.
Well, that's no different than having a vacant farmstead and someone saying, well, it's not a primary residence today, but 20 years from now, I might want to sell it and it'll become a primary residence. Too bad. I mean, how can you, on the wind tower side then, you're gonna build this tower and 10 years from now, it becomes a primary residence, you can't take it down. So it would be actually the primary residences at a particular time.
Right, well, the senior citizens are living there at that time,
That would
I
take
understand, but you see where I'm going with this. If somebody has property and things change in a short time, your marketability could change. I'm looking at the thing to protect the game as far as going forward of people doing things. I understand what you guys are saying, I totally follow it. I'm trying to present the other side, that where the game is different. But my question ends up being is, we're being told how we have to do it. If you understand what I'm trying to say.
We're being suggested as how we could do it. We still have the
Pretty strong
opportunity to
suggestion.
do it however we want.
And in fairness, the matters that you're bringing up, Brian, I think were belabored probably extensively at planning and zoning.
Okay, I'm just, you understand what I'm
We had
trying to
we had
do.
a hard time
Good point.
with definitions.
I'm just looking out for the long term for everybody. Okay.
I go back to that, you know, if you ever grew up on a farm years ago, and well, most of you did, everybody had a windmill, and it was squeaking in the morning. So you know what I'm saying? Go ahead, John.
Oh,
Okay, and you guys all kept it with the 50-foot blade on the ground? Okay. We have updated the collector lines on 12.1.3.22. What we had written was the applicant shall place electrical lines known as collectors and communication cable underground. Collectors and cables shall be placed within and adjacent to the land necessary for turbine access roads, unless otherwise negotiated with the affected landowner. And so what they're proposing is that the applicant shall place electrical lines known as collectors and communication cables underground. Applicant to coordinate with landowner on placement of cable. And the comment was that this clause, the way it's written, will cause longer cable runs, more infrastructure on the farmer's land. Best practice is coordination with landowners regarding placement of the cable to achieve best results. So far so good.
Is there a spec on the depth?
yeah. State
Okay.
4 feet?
Okay, just curious.
No, no, 4 feet?
Minimum of 4 feet.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then we go to feeder lines on 12.1.3.23B. We have in all cases the applicant shall avoid placement of feeders lines in locations that may interfere with agricultural operations. And the recommended is the applicant shall coordinate with affected landowners to locate feeder lines in locations that will not interfere with agricultural
That's
operations.
just grammar. Screw
Yep.
up for-
So, if we go to 12.1.3.30, talking about setbacks, we had written wind turbine shall be set back at least 5,280 feet 1 mile from participating primary residences and non-participating primary residence measured from the center of the turbine monopole, and further as necessary to meet the sound level requirement in subsection 29 above.
Yeah, go back, Jana, not to interrupt, but
Yep.
you maybe should talk a little bit about 29.
Okay,
Because
sorry, I missed that one.
29 talks about,
Sound level.
well, it should be a 1 mile setback for everybody. And this is changing it to 1 mile setback for non-participants, right?
So a sound study which includes modeling of sound levels. Within 100 feet of any occupied.
Well, yeah, that's just sound. I guess 30 then explains it.
So
Yeah,
30,
that's
what we
redundant.
had written was wind turbine shall be set back a mile, and further as necessary to meet the sound level requirements of subsection 29 above. The option for variance is available the horizontal distance between the center of the turbine monopole and any park, boat ramp, swimming beach, yada yada, shall not be less than 5,280 feet or 1 mile. An option for variance is available. So what they're recommending is a variance may be after subsection 29 above. It says a variance may be granted if an authorized representative or agent of the applicant and those affected parties sign a formal and binding agreement expressing all parties' support for a variance that may reduce the setback requirements. That they say is providing clarity on variance methods. Then further down, under the horizontal distance, it says a variance may be granted if an authorized representative, again, it's the same thing, but just identifying what a variance could support.
Explains that a little
Yeah.
more.
If we go to 12.1.3.40, transfer of ownership of a wind turbine facility, the comment of this one is that using a method for assuring compliance that does not subject financing to local political issues. So I'm not sure if they are I think they're just updating wording. Because it's like, instead of applications, notice of an attestation and requesting the new entity shall write in writing type of thing. So I think it's just writing changes there.
I think it simplifies the process of transfer if it never occurs.
Then they're requesting to add a 12.1.4.4. And it states, in advance of submitting an application, the applicant may submit a proposed project boundary map and request the addresses and owners of record for primary residences located within Wells County and within 5,280 feet of the proposed project boundary to ensure all required setbacks and other requirements of this ordinance are met prior to submitting the application and being reviewed by the Wells County Planning Commission. The county planner shall provide such list within 10 days of receipt of request. Now you can sign that around if you guys and catch all of that. Is that something that you're asking to be added to it?
Whenever we work on our part, follow that part. Any wind farm would need a list of primary residents. Well, who are they?
So if there's wind towers here and there's wind towers here and this guy here don't want one, can he request none?
Depends on how far away he is.
I mean, this guy's okay with it, he's mild. This guy in between, he doesn't want one at all on his land. Can he not have one?
Oh, yeah. You have the right to do what you want in your land.
That's the question.
But he doesn't have any say if those two that you're pointing to are more than a mile away.
He's here and it's a mile over to
Oh,
here.
yeah, but I mean, if he doesn't want a wind turbine on his land at all, I don't care what this guy does or that guy does, if he's got 800 acres in between, and he don't want a wind tower.
Oh, no, you have the right to do what you want.
It's his land.
It's his
Yeah,
land.
okay, I just want to make
He can do
sure,
what he
thank you. Just wanted to make sure.
Want me to continue or?
Yeah.
wants. Yeah.
So then 12.1.4.6 is fees. We have originally written it as a special use permit fee is 0.001 or 1/10 of 1% of the value of each wind turbine. An application fee of $1,000 shall be payable at the time of application for a special use permit, with the remainder of the special use permit remitted by the applicant prior to building permit applications. What they're proposing is the special use permit fee of $1,000 plus $250 for each proposed wind turbine up to a total amount of no more than $30,000. The comment is adjusting to usual market for county process. Unused state permitting fees are typically refunded.
Basically, that's what that's saying. If you put 100 wind towers on, there is a maximum fee that the sum total would be.
30,000.
Up to 30,000.
Right.
Let's see here. At the very end, they're requesting at 12.1.5.11. And it says, upon request of the applicant, the county commission may vary or waive the requirements of the zoning regulations as applied to the project if the waiver or variance preserves the public health, safety, and welfare of the county and is consistent with the purposes and intent of these zoning regulations. And I till at the bottom. So those are the changes requested. And again, you received a copy of what I just read.
Yep.
Yeah.
This goes back a couple of sections. I want to be clear. You mentioned something about the county is responsible for verifying. How would we know that?
I have no idea, because I mean, I have a list of all the residential farmsteads that are exempt.
Really and truly, our only contact with residential is through sending them a tax statement, or if they apply for homestead credit or disabled veterans or whatever.
No,
I just don't have any idea how we would be capable of being responsible to say somebody's lived in this place for the last 9 months. That's the only thing that I've heard. I have no way of.
I have no idea either.
Other than contacting them. Yeah, you're right. You know, the devil's in the details, some of this stuff.
The only ways I could think of for primary residence would be the primary residence credit, and that's only if they apply for it.
Only if they apply,
Yeah.
and there's
Homestead
just,
credit, and that's again if they apply for it.
it almost seems like we're being asked to do an annual census that would verify. We don't have any working mechanism to do that. I'm not sure how you would even go about that.
Would you ask the townships for that information?
Some townships can-
And why would they have it? I don't know why they would. Obviously, it's a much smaller footprint, yes, but how could you verify that?
Has it got anything to do with if they get their mail on a regular basis there? I mean, I know there's ways to play that game too, but has that got anything to do with it?
No.
People get their mail different places.
People get their mail, yeah.
And then there's the issue of PO boxes when they drive to town.
Right.
And that was part of our discussion about primary residence. Isn't where you get your mail. It isn't where you do your driver's license tends to be a real thing because you need that to vote or you know, whatever the case may be.
Well, and what is the requirement? Don't they have to live there so many months before they can vote at that address?
No. 30 days,
30 days.
but,
Well, whatever mechanism you use, even if it's a driver's license, there still has to be a verification of that, so, yeah.
it just becomes a little bit of a sticky point there. I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm just saying what mechanism would we have to do this? And you're in a confined area in this case. We're talking in this particular project, we're talking about 2 townships, so we're talking about, you know, 72 square miles.
That's doable.
It may be doable, but I just don't know what that mechanism is.
Well, on a bigger picture, you know, we'll go back to Burley counties. All they had was structure or dwelling. How do they know, how do the wind farm people in Wilton, we'll use that as an example, know what a dwelling was? I wonder. That'd be a good question to ask those people, because dwellings, oh my God, I can get hundreds of them versus a primary resident.
What does a dwelling mean?
Well, they have a definition, it's really vague.
But you understand what I'm saying? A dwelling, is it that you listed that you can live there? Or is a dwelling just a place to park your car?
Well, it's defined, but it's something that's livable, but not currently lived in.
Okay.
It's inhabitable.
Inhabitable, right.
Okay.
Well, that can be a wooden drain bank that you
Exactly.
can stay overnight a couple times while you're spraying. You don't want to drive 70 miles back home again. So, yeah, it's just, yeah. Anyway. I got my, I ran them off home.
Has Oliver read this?
No.
Huh? Does it make sense for him to read it? I'm asking a question.
Any other discussions you guys?
Well, I'll beat this dead horse to death.
Has this been shown to the zoning board at all, besides you guys?
Yeah, they got it.
No. No.
Oh,
Well,
Not at the meeting.
Yeah.
They have it in an email.
Right.
Has there been any feedback from them? Are they okay with it, the rest of them?
The
Again,
zoning board has looked at the Burley County template.
Right, but these changes that have come, do they get, if they haven't had a chance to read, I mean, if they haven't read them, that's their problem, but has there been any feedback from them reading them?
No.
No.
There has been none because there's been no meeting.
Oh, okay.
We
Right.
just
The
have
last
this
meeting we had, we shipped out the policy that you have in your packet, or
They're
the
not aware,
ordinance.
they're, other than their email that they got, they're not aware of the changes.
They haven't been discussed, put it
That
that
one
way.
discussed. Although, we did discuss,
We discussed them at the meeting of all these changes.
when
Some,
we talked about, and here's an example, Burley County didn't have specific language in there as to all the feeder lines being buried. We discussed that wording just cleared up. It's not changing the intent of the zoning board. Same with the primary residence. They were all in agreement that it should be a primary residence. The wordage from driver's license to 9 months out of the year is probably new to them, but they're all intended that it should be. So most of this stuff, the intent was there, it's just language that's cleaning some of this up.
Yeah, probably the only thing that was never discussed was the element about permitting fees and how you'd go about determining or who would be responsible for determining residence.
2 additions
Right.
and then the 50
that actually got some play and conversation,
That's
but.
Right, we talked about that. And, you know, that just makes common sense. Why make it higher than you have to? I mean, if that blade comes down 50 feet, it's not gonna interfere with anything.
Right.
Versus a 75.
So I got a question for the zoning guys. Is this setback thing specific to windmills or is it for other things in the county? 'Cause
Specific to windmills.
just the windmills?
Yes.
It may serve as a guideline for other stuff that we have to get together, as in data centers and
Right.
things of that nature, which we intend to continue to work on. Do you know when next we will meet in the event that they're not prepared to do this today?
I go to Stanley on this, next Wednesday, the 16th.
Yep.
And then I plan to have another meeting, a regular zoning meeting at the end of July, once I get all that paperwork sent out to the zoning board.
Because these guys will have to come back one more time in July for budget, and that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, and so they could have, would it be another regular or public meeting? Because if they
Regular.
sent this back to zoning and they did any changes, would we need another public or would we just send it back to the county commission? I don't know how that works. Because
I think-
if we need a public hearing for it.
The whole structure of that with public hearings is just,
Well, the buck stops here at this table.
That's
Right
right.
where that car is parked, so I guess you can get this over and done with today, but you have to take into consideration each of these things here.
A few years ago, I expressed interest. A friend of mine in Minnesota called me and told me about zoning problems, and nothing happened here. So I would encourage the zoning board to be snooping and being diligent about what's coming down the pike, so you don't get blindsided.
That's what my question was, whether this is specific.
Right. Because he said they had a wreck. They had a
well,
bad
be
wreck.
specific.
Okay. In Minnesota in areas, there were so many cows allowed in a quarter. And they bought 4 quarters. So they had a real concentration in one spot. And then all the land got rented out for silage. By the time they got all that silage where it belonged, because silage wrecks roads way more than grain does, because you're hauling all the water, and they had no control of it. They couldn't get anywhere with it, they just had to eat it. And so he called me and he said, make sure you have wordage about what's going on with whatever comes into your township or county, because he said, they come, he said, and they snoop where they can get things and where they can't get things. And he was just concerned, a good friend of mine. And he
That's a
just-
good point, that's a separate issue, but it does kind of affect the state, because in Hillsborough and Abercrombie right now, there's a big competition in dairy farms, big dairy farms. That's a separate issue, but, yeah.
I mean, it's, what I'm saying is as this thing's coming, because they're coming to North Dakota, because there's places to do stuff here. And that's normal. I mean, if I was a businessman, I'd be doing the same thing. All I'm saying is, we need to be diligent as this is coming.
Well, it's crazy how things have changed. Every farm used to have dairy cows.
Right. It just, that was all spread out.
Concentration.
But now it's bigger,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and along your line, Brian, you know, and I've never had to struggle so badly with any particular issue as this, in that, where do you balance economic development with personal property rights?
I understand that. I'm just
Well-
saying, just make sure that.
But how do you resolve that?
Right, as these people come in, we need to be diligent to make sure that they're on the up and up.
Look, you know, a data center is different than a dairy
Right.
deal, you know, so. each
I'm
guy-
not just saying Derek, he was called.
But he
to
did
that.
a good
Yeah.
job.
Right, I mean, it's just, as a zoning committee, that needs all be looked at. I'm glad we have what we have, and I'm glad we've had as much discussion as we've had, because hopefully that
Chad and
will.
I are really tired of it.
I know that, but hopefully that will get people to realize that there is diligence here.
Yeah.
That's my.
Well, there is, and if